What's up, guys? Hey, Jared Beckstrand here, Doctor of Physical Therapy, toneandtitan.com. Do you have sciatic nerve pain? Today I wanted to discuss with you 3 of the most common reasons why you get sciatic nerve pain and how to tell exactly where yours might be coming from. Let's get into it right now. All right, you guys, so what is sciatica and how can we tell exactly where yours is coming from? So we've got nerves that come down our back and they exit at each individual vertebral level. And so represented here in the yellow would be our nerves. So again, they come down our spinal column and then they're going to exit out of our spinal cord out at each kind of individual vertebral level. Now, the bottommost nerves, so you've got a few of them right here on this side, and then you've got a few of them, I don't know, you guys probably can't see that very well, on the inside part right here. Those bottommost nerves, they actually come together to form 3 nerves, and then they, in turn, are going to be wrapped in one kind of big sheath. And so 3 nerves wrapped together forms kind of one big old nerve that comes out, again, kind of down on that lower level, and then travels right down your leg. It's that combination of those 3 nerves, and then again in that common sheath that travel down your leg, that we refer to as the sciatic nerve. Now, sciatica simply refers to an irritation of the sciatic nerve. And so I point out to people all the time, sciatica is not a diagnosis. It's not telling us anything about where your pain is coming from. Sciatica is a symptom. It's simply referring to pain that radiates down your leg. And so in order to treat your sciatica effectively, you have to be able to come to the right diagnosis, because not all back pain and not all kind of radiating pain down your leg is going to be created equally. Depending on the cause, I'm going to recommend different treatment options and different kind of plan of care for each of those different causes. And so the 3 most common causes of sciatica that I see in my physical therapy clinic are going to be a bulged disc or a herniated disc, stenosis or degenerative disc disease or DDD is number 2, and then number 3 is going to be what we'd call a piriformis syndrome, tightness of the piriformis muscle that actually pinches down on that nerve. And so what I wanted to show you guys, what I wanted to demonstrate in the video today, are just some simple tests that you can do at home to determine exactly where your sciatic nerve pain is coming from, or where that sciatica is originating. From that, you can then kind of troubleshoot it a little bit better and figure out what is the best treatment plan, how we can best take care of your pain. And so let's get into those right now. All right, so let's first talk about a bulged disc or a herniated disc and some common signs and symptoms that I see in that condition. I'd say for the most part, this is pain that is unilateral, so it only happens down one side as opposed to both. Starts in your back or in your butt and can travel down your leg, either into your butt, into the back of your knee. Sometimes it's even all the way down into the foot. Can feel some numbness or some tingling kind of in places throughout your leg depending on which nerve's affected and how badly it's affected. These are people who a lot of times bending forward really aggravates that disc, as it puts more pressure on the front of the disc, causes more bulge towards the backside, more pressure on the nerve. So bending forward, especially bending forward to like pick something up, to do that against a load, is really painful if you have a bulged disc. A lot of times standing upright and walking around is really helpful to these people. So to even kind of get up into this position, walk around, is really going to alleviate some of your symptoms. I'm actually going to go grab my wife. Let me show you a couple more tests that we use in my PT clinic for this bulged disc condition. All right, so I brought my wife in to demonstrate 2 of our most common tests that we use to diagnose a bulged disc or a herniated disc. Now, again, the anatomy here is that the nerves go from her brain all the way down her back, exit out her leg, and basically go all the way down to her big toe. Somewhere along that line, they're being bugged. If it is in her lower back and if it is a disc, we can actually reproduce those symptoms by increasing tension in that nerve, basically stretching that nerve, making that nerve long. So what she's going to do is get into a slumped position. So she's going to round her back, she's going to tuck her chin down into her chest. If it was her left leg leg that's aggravated, now what I want her to do is slowly extend that left knee until you start to feel maybe some of that reproduction of those nerve symptoms. And so not a lot of people will even be able to go this high. They might even only make it to kind of right here when they start to feel stress in the back of her leg. Now, what else she can do is she can actually bring her toe and pull it up towards her knee to add even a little more stress to that test. If that's positive, you're going to feel that reproduction of those sciatica symptoms down your leg. That would be indicative of a herniated disc. Our second test, go ahead and lay down on your back here, babe, would be a straight leg raise test. So she's going to scooch all the way up so that she can kind of lay out flat. I want both your legs out straight. And then in this position, what she's going to do, you can do this on your own or you can have a helper, is just someone who's going to very slowly bring your leg up into this position. Now, oftentimes when I find positive tests on this, people will get to about this point, about this 45-degree angle. If we come up here, I'm starting to get resistance there, but that is just tight hamstrings. I'm meeting her hamstring resistance right there. If it's true nerve pain, again, increasing the length of that nerve and pulling on that nerve with that disc in the way, she's going to get to about right here and say, okay, yeah, I'm starting to feel some electricity down the back of my leg with that one. What I then ask her to do is pull that toe towards her or go ahead and relax. If you have an assistant, I can come in and I can push on that and all of a sudden, zing, wow, yeah, that really hurts those nerve pain, that really reproduces that nerve pain down the back of my leg. That's what we would call a positive straight leg raise test, which would also be indicative of that bulged disc condition. The last test that you can do at home to check and see whether or not you've got this bulged or herniated disc condition would be some simple muscle tests. A lot of times the nerves that are affected are kind of the lower nerves in your back. They're the ones that are primarily responsible for moving your foot up and down. So one thing you can do is walk around on your heels. And so you'll see here that I'm up on my heels. I have good nerve activation. I have good nerve signal and muscle activation to this muscle in the front right here. If that nerve, if one of those nerves is bugged, if it's that L5 nerve, it's going to actually affect your activation of that muscle. And so for you to walk around on your heels like this, that side that's affected, you might be fine on one side, but the other one, you might not be able to hold it up because that nerve signal isn't getting to that muscle completely. The other thing that you could do, if it's that next disc down that might be affected, is stand on one foot and then just do some heel raises. And so here's my left leg. I usually tell people to do about 10 of those, and if it's not affected, you should be able to get through 10 of these pretty easily. However, if it is that right side disc and if it is that right side nerve that's affected, that's going to be a little more difficult. For me to do these single leg heel raises, I might get through 4, 5, 6 of those and notice a significant asymmetry between those muscles, between that muscle activation. That would be another indication that you might have a bulged disc condition. So if any of those are true, you guys, if you've got the straight leg raise test, you've got the slump test, the muscle tests, any of those other kind of signs and symptoms we talked about that would be indicative of a bulged or herniated disc, I shot a video for you guys. It's all about how to treat sciatica related to that bulged disc condition. Check out the link in the description to this video. I've linked to that video from there. You can also click on it right up here. I'll leave the link up here. You can click on that to go to, again, the best treatment for that bulged or herniated disc condition. The second most common cause of sciatica that I see in my PT clinic would be a stenosis condition, or degenerative disc, or deteriorated disc, or DDD. All of these things are indicative of the same thing. Basically, your disc should be this tall. Over time, that disc loses its ability to retain fluid. Over time, it shrinks. And so the thing that I most commonly hear with a degenerated disc are maybe someone who's a little bit older, and so a lot of times I'll see the degenerated disc condition in someone who's in their 40s and 50s and 60s, as opposed to back pain and sciatica in your 20s and 30s and 40s. And so a little bit older is the typical population that I see this one in. This condition is typically aggravated by bending over backwards. So standing up straight, bending over backwards, a lot of times aggravates that pain in your back and down your leg. Conversely, oftentimes it's alleviated by folding forward. And so these are the people who walk around like this because that helps their back to feel better. They prefer sitting to standing. All of these things are going to alleviate pressure on that disc. And then also, this is back pain and sciatic nerve pain that can happen bilaterally, meaning as that disc gets shorter, a lot of times it pinches on the nerves on both sides of your back and causes those symptoms to radiate down both sides. So those are the things that oftentimes we cue into with the degenerative disc condition. Now, if you're experiencing the degenerative disc with the sciatica, I shot a video about some of the best stretches and exercises that you can do at home to treat this stenosis or DDD condition. Look for that in a link below. I'm also going to leave a link to that video right up here in this spot. Click on that to be taken to those videos. Alright, so lastly, let's talk for a second about piriformis syndrome as a cause for your sciatica. Brought my wife back in to help me demonstrate some of these. However, let's first talk about some other causes that you might be experiencing. I see a lot of piriformis syndrome in people who spend a lot of time sitting, especially if you're sitting maybe on a wallet, if you sit a lot with your leg crossed. Those are all things that kind of cue me into thinking, okay, maybe it's that piriformis muscle that's affected. Another thing that I key into is hip mobility. And so to demonstrate, especially rotational mobility, so to demonstrate that, Camille's going to get into, let's cross your right leg over your left, and you'll see that if straight up and down was 0 degrees, she can get about 90 degrees. That's probably about 80 degrees of rotation in that hip. With her right hand, she can even push down on her right knee, and you can see that we can add a few more degrees to it. And so that would be indicative. So I would expect about, 70, kind of 80 to 90 degrees of hip rotation. Let's say her right side was pain-free. Now get out of that position. Now let's check the left side. And let's say, for example, she's in this position. So again, if here is 0, we're looking at like 45, 50 degrees there of hip rotation. And if that's tight, that can be indicative of tightness in that piriformis muscle. If she even kind of pushes down on that and she's only getting kind of to here, okay, yeah, we have an asymmetrical, or we have an imbalance in that piriformis muscle. If it's that left side that's painful, that can be a pretty good indicator. Go ahead and uncross your legs. The other thing that she can do is look at her internal rotation range of motion. So seated just like this, if we have her pull her legs apart, again, as we look at that, that should be pretty symmetrical. If it's not, most of the time it's probably on that side where you're experiencing those sciatic nerve symptoms, and again, that would be indicative of the piriformis syndrome. That would be an indication that we need to treat that specifically. And then the last test that I use kind of for this piriformis syndrome would be pain with muscle activation. So Camille's going to lay down up here on her left side. And let's say, for example, again, that it was that right side that's affected. And so she's laying on her side with her knees together and her feet together. And now what she's going to do is separate her knees. What that does is, we call this a clamshell in the PT clinic, again, indicative of a clam opening up its mouth. What that's doing is activating that piriformis muscle. It's a hip external rotator. Activating it, if it is a cause for your pain, can actually cause some of those symptoms. It can cause pain, it can cause point tenderness in that area. Now, if this is too easy, you can have, a friend or a helper actually come in and kind of give you a little push on that. If we activate that muscle with a little bit more resistance on there, and if it does reproduce that pain either in that spot or down your leg, that could also be indicative of a positive piriformis syndrome. So if you think that your pain might be due to that piriformis syndrome, or if one of those things that I just mentioned, sounds like your pain, sounds like your sciatic nerve pain, I also shot a video for that, the best exercises and stretches you can do to alleviate your piriformis related sciatica symptoms. Again, check out the link in the description to this video. Check out this link right up here. That will take you to the best exercises you can do for that condition. And so that's it for me, you guys. Hey, again, I just wanted to highlight the 3 major causes that I see for some of those sciatic nerve symptoms that you might be experiencing. Talked about how to diagnose them, what could potentially be causing them, and then again left you some links to some great video ideas on how you can best treat that pain, treat those symptoms. So I hope you guys found this beneficial. If you did, do me a favor, hit that like button down below, and thank you so much for that in advance. Also, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Tone and Tighten here on YouTube. My goal is to help you guys to become the fittest, healthiest, most pain-free versions of yourself. I hope you take the chance to subscribe to this channel. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for future videos, leave those in a comment down below. I'll get to those as soon as I can. And until next time, you guys, hey, we'll see you right back here on Tone and Tighten.